I never expected to fall for a struggling college girl on a blind date with my daughter. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. The moment that changed everything. My heart raced, pounding in my chest like a hammer against an anvil. I stood there, a proud father, waiting for my daughter to bring a friend to dinner. And then she walked in. She was hesitant, an awkward mix of confidence and shyness. Her hair, wild and unkempt, framed a face filled with dreams and secrets. I could see it in her eyes, a flicker of hope, tremors of despair, tangled together like threads of an ancient tapestry. She wore a faded band tee and jeans that looked like they had fought every battle on her campus. But there was something electric about her. My daughter smiled, introducing us. "Dad, this is Mia." Just that name sent shivers down my spine. It felt like a dream, shadowy and familiar. As we exchanged pleasantries, the air thickened. An unspoken connection sparked between us, growing as I watched her shift nervously, biting her lip. She spoke in hushed tones, her voice barely breaking through the clattering din of the restaurant. I leaned in closer, desperate to catch her words. Every laughter, every sigh, drew me further into her world. The light from the overhead lamp glinted off her tear-streaked face, a stark reminder of the struggles she faced, the burdens she carried. It hurt to witness her pain. It twisted inside me, tight and sharp like a flicker of fire. But amidst the vulnerability, a deeper mystery lingered. Questions flooded my mind. Why was she on a blind date? Why with my daughter? The more I learned, the more curious I became. Her voice cracked when she mentioned her school debt looming like a thundercloud. My chest tightened, each revelation tearing at the fabric of my composure. The night spun on, filled with laughter and tales of failure and triumph. Each word pulled me closer, and then, just when I thought I knew her, she dropped a bombshell. "I almost dropped out last semester," she confessed, glaring at her hands like they had committed some unforgivable sin. "I didn't know how I'd pay for classes next year. But it's all on me." In that moment, the air shifted, thickening with the weight of her truth. My heart raced as I felt a mixture of admiration and worry. Could I help her? Would it matter? My world blurred around us, the restaurant fading into a silent backdrop for our raw connection. Then suddenly, she turned to me with those wide, searching eyes. "What if there's no way out?" Her words shattered the silence, a piercing question that echoed in my mind. Everything around us paused. I felt my breath hitch. The moment thrummed with a chaotic energy, unspoken emotion swirling as the waiter approached, his voice a distant murmur. And then I froze. Was this going to be more than just a dinner? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. I could hardly breathe as Mia's question hung in the air, sharp and heavy. The hum of the restaurant dulled, everything fading into the background as I stared into her searching eyes. It felt as though she had stripped me of my father's armor, laying bare the fragile parts of my heart that I thought I had hidden well. What if there's no way out? I echoed softly, my own thoughts swirling like leaves caught in an autumn wind. The weight of her life pressed against me, and I felt an urge to protect her, to reach across the chasm of our experiences and offer some form of reassurance. But what did I have to offer? My life wasn't free of struggles either. Before I could respond, my daughter, Sophie, picked up on the tension. She glanced between us, her brow furrowing. "Mia, it's okay," she said, her voice steady but uncertain. The concern was etched on her face. I knew she was worried about her friend, but she couldn't possibly comprehend the depth of the connection that was blossoming in that moment. Mia shook her head, amusement barely touching her features. "It's not okay. I might let my family down, my classmates. I'm not like you, Sophie. You've always had everything figured out. Her words spilled out gnarled with bitterness, and I felt their sharpness deep within. Sophie's eyes widened. That's not true, Mia. There's so much you don't see. I could see her determination to uplift her friend, but it only seemed to draw Mia further into herself. I was born into chaos, Sophie, Mia replied, her voice barely more than a whisper. I've worked every job under the sun just to keep my head above water. I'm tired of feeling like I'm drowning. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, and I wished I could reach over and comfort her, wipe away the storm gathering in her heart. I cleared my throat, searching for the right words. Sometimes it feels like there's no way out, I began, my voice thick with emotion. But other times, hope finds a way to flicker in. You're not alone in this. I regretted those words the moment they left my mouth. I wasn't sure if they were true, they felt like mere wishful thinking, yet I couldn't take them back. Mia's gaze softened momentarily, but the hurt returned quickly. I could see the wall she had built around herself, built from her fears and experiences. Still, somewhere within that rough exterior, sparks of hope lingered, a lighter flickering in the depths. Could you help me? She asked suddenly, catching both me and Sophie off guard. I mean, what would you do if you were in my place? Would you be able to face the mountain of debt with no safety net? Her voice trembled, each word laced with vulnerability I had never expected to encounter. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, a sharp reminder of the life I had outside of this poignant moment. I fished it out, glancing at the screen. It was my wife. My heart sank as I remembered the turmoil that had been brewing between us. She had barely acknowledged my absence lately. The silences in our home had grown unbearable. Would she understand this burgeoning connection I felt for Mia? Or would she dismiss it as a midlife crisis? I hesitated, torn between the weight of my responsibilities and the warmth that blossomed between us. My thoughts drifted back to Mia's story, her struggles. It felt impossible and yet real. I want to help you, I finally replied, my voice steady now. Please allow me to try. Maybe we can figure something out together. For the briefest moment, her eyes flickered with surprise, but then reality settled back around her. I don't want to be a charity case, she murmured, her tone fierce, yet I could see a question lingering beneath her pride. Please, I pressed gently, it's not about charity. It's about connection. Then I noticed something shift in her expression, as if the pieces of her fractured world were slowly rearranging. But just as quickly, she turned it away, retreating behind her defenses. I think I need some air, she said, cutting through the fragile moment. Before I could respond, she stood up, shoving her chair back and weaving through the tables. I watched her flee, a fleeting specter disappearing into the night, leaving my heart heavy in her absence. Dad, Sophie said, worry creasing her brow. Should I go after her? Give her a moment, I replied, my voice faltering between concern and empathy. She needs time. But in her retreat, something gnawed at me, an unsettling feeling that this moment marked the beginning of something profound yet dangerous. The truth was, I was falling for her. This would complicate everything. As the night wore on and the laughter of other diners swirled around us, I couldn't shake the feeling that the air had shifted fundamentally. I had opened a door to emotions I hadn't anticipated. And just as I sank deeper into that realization, a sudden message illuminated my phone screen once more. My wife's name flashed as an incoming call. I hesitated, torn between answering, facing the chaos of my life, or ignoring it, preserving this fragile moment with Mia. Before I could make a choice, the truth hit me like a tidal wave. I didn't just care about Mia, I was beginning to love her. And now, I felt an overwhelming urge to fight for both her and the worth of my own choices. The restaurant buzzed around me as the world outside my table dimmed into a blur. My heart raced, caught between the gnawing conflict within. The glow from my phone flickered again, each pulse drawing me further into that void, the space where I could so easily fall into the softness of Mia's gaze. But I couldn't ignore the reality waiting on the other end of that call, the reality that had tangled itself like ivy around my heart. I dismissed the call and stared forlornly at the empty chair where Mia had just sat. How could a simple dinner turn the trajectory of my life upside down? Dad, what's going on with you? Sophie's voice pulled me back. There was something in her eyes, a mix of worry and understanding, far beyond her years. I've never seen you look like this before. I began, but the words tangled in my throat. I had to tread carefully, to ensure she didn't carry my burdens. It's complicated. Her brow furrowed, revealing the wise soul beneath her youthful spirit. You can talk to me, you know? I want to help you too. There was a sincerity in her voice that was disarming. What do you think I should do? I asked, though I already felt the weight of 100 roads diverging before me. Maybe, give her the chance? You seem to connect with her, Dad. It's not just about age or whatever. Love shows up where it wants to. I felt a mixture of pride and fear as I contemplated her words. The love I felt for Mia was something entirely new. I had always wrapped my affection in the familiar warmth of my shared history with my family. This was different, challenging the very fabric of my realities. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, the conflict settled into silence, waiting for my decision. Sophie glared at her untouched plate, clearly considering something. So, are you going to stay and see if she comes back? Or will you try to reach her? I didn't know. My instinct screamed for me to chase after her, to throw caution to the wind and take a risk. There was a fire igniting within me, daring me to venture into uncharted waters. But a storm in my heart whispered caution, reminding me of the tattered edges of my marriage waiting for attention. I think I should look for her, I finally said, my voice breaking the silence. Maybe we can talk. She needs someone who believes in her. Sophie's face brightened, softening the furrow in her brow. Go. If she feels anything like I do, she might be waiting for the one person who believes it's okay to ask for help. Grateful and terrified, I rose from the table, stealing one last glance at Sophie as I hurried toward the exit. The city air hit me like a wave, cool and pungent with the scent of rain. I began to scan the sidewalks, wishing I had thought to ask which direction she had fled. A gust of wind swept past me, tinged with something electric, and I felt a tremor in my heart. Moments passed like hours as I walked through the soft drizzle, calling out her name softly, my voice mingling with the patter of raindrops. Mia! I called again, a plea rising up through my chest. And then, a timid figure came into sight, huddled beneath the awning of a bookshop just a block away. Relief flooded through me as I approached, but something darker flickered in her expression. Mia, I breathed, closing the distance between us. I was worried. She met my gaze, vulnerability etched across her features. What do you want, really? I searched for the right words, struggling to convey the storm that raged within. I want to understand you, I finally said, and I want you to know that it's okay to let someone in. The frown on her face deepened, overshadowing the glimmer of hope I had hoped to spark. But you don't know who I am. You don't know what I've faced. Her hesitance struck like an arrow. Neither do you know my life. It's not as perfect as you think, I said gently, a knot tightening in my chest. The truth is, I feel a connection between us. Maybe we can help each other navigate this mess. The wind swirled around us, each gust accentuating the tension hanging in the air. You're married, she reminded me, the edge of personal doubt slicing through her tone. I know, I replied, anguish spilling into my words. But I can't pretend I don't feel something for you. It terrifies me. But there's a part of me that wants to see this through, that wants to fight for you. And Maya's expression faltered as new emotions played across her face, mixing confusion with a hint of curiosity. What does that mean for you? For your family? The question echoed between us, the weight of reality heavy in the air. A pang of guilt pricked at my conscience, and I was about to reply when, from behind her, a man emerged, a tall figure, and I could see the camaraderie in the comfort with which he approached. Mia! I was looking for you, he called out, concern etched into his features. I felt my heart plummet. Who's that? I whispered, my heart pounding, confusion crashing against the moment I thought we were falling into. As I turned my eyes back to Mia, watching her face shift from anguish to surprise, the moment spiraled into unpredictability, leaving me standing in wavering hope, caught between two worlds. The sibling struggle of love and loyalty threatened to unravel everything I had thought I understood. And as everything faded into a haze of uncertainty, I realized I stood on the edge of an unforeseen precipice. The world around me blurred, and I felt as though I was watching the scene from a distance, unable to grasp the reality of what was happening. The tall figure closing the gap between Mia and me radiated an energy that further deepened the chasm forming within my heart. Was he her boyfriend? A friend? A guardian? Mia! He reached her in a heartbeat, his voice warm and filled with genuine concern. I stood frozen, grappling with waves of jealousy crashing against the rocks of confusion and longing. As they embraced briefly, Mia's tension seemed to dissolve, but it did nothing to ease the knot tightening in my stomach. Is everything okay? He asked, his eyes darting to me, lingering with a flicker of curiosity or maybe suspicion. Yeah, I'm fine, she replied, but her gaze shifted back to me, uncertainty sparking in her eyes. I just needed a moment. The struggle to keep my voice steady was palpable as I forced a smile. I didn't mean to intrude. We were just talking. I can see that, he said, his tone defensive yet protective. I'm Ethan. Mia's classmate. I nodded, recognizing the unspoken bond between them, the trust she had in Ethan that I had not yet earned. I'm Sam. Her eye paused, the weight of the word father stinging, as it felt too grand to encompass the man I had been lately. Friend of sorts. Ethan's apprehensive gaze lingered on me as if weighing the merits of my intentions. Right. Well, we really should get going. Mia has a study group to catch up with. A pang of disappointment struck me. So soon? The flickering hope I held waned like the dimming streetlights around us. I opened my mouth to protest, to ask for just a few more moments. I could almost hear Sophie's encouraging words echoing in my mind, urging me to reach out further, but I couldn't seem to muster the courage. Wait, Mia said suddenly, surprising both Ethan and me. I wanted to thank Sam for coming after me. Her voice wavered, and an unfamiliar warmth glowed in her eyes as she turned to face me. You believed I could be more than just broken. My heart swelled, the recognition linking our pain like threads weaving an unbreakable bond, but before I could reply, Ethan shifted nervously. We should go. Mia looked down, clearly torn, and it shattered me a little more to witness that inner battle. Yeah. Right. Her voice was a whisper, barely cutting through the stillness thickening the air. As they started to walk away, I felt an uncontrollable urge to grasp at the remnants of our moment. Mia! I called out, my voice rising as the darkness of the night enveloped us. Just remember, you're not alone, okay? She paused, casting a sideways glance over her shoulder. Our eyes locked, and in that fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of understanding, the kind that transcends age and circumstance. Thank you, Sam. I'll keep that in mind, and with that, they turned and walked into the shadows, leaving me standing alone beneath the weight of the streetlights. Suddenly, the memories of my crumbling marriage flared up like 1,000 fireflies, illuminating every crack in the foundation I had spent so long trying to patch. I took a shaking breath, my heart racing with regret, but before I could process the intense cyclone of emotions swirling within, my phone buzzed violently in my pocket, pulling me from the depths of my thoughts. Swallowing a sigh, I fished it out, dreading the screen's illumination. The caller ID sent a ripple of ice down my spine. It was Michelle. My wife, the one responsible for the commitments I found suffocating yet couldn't bear to break. I hesitated, staring at the screen as fear and confusion wrestled back into place in my heart. I wanted to reject the call, to lose myself in the feelings Mia had unleashed, but something deeper urged me to answer. Maybe this ring of desperation could anchor me back to reality. As I took a deep breath and pressed the screen, I was met with a voice that trembled as though searching for fragments of something it had lost. Sam? We need to talk. Something's happened, something big. My mind raced with the possibilities lurking within her words, dread wrapping around me as tightly as the ivy that had coiled around my heart. Okay, I managed to respond, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. I'm listening. But as I walked away from where Mia had stood, clouds of uncertainty filled the air, and the emotional precipice I had felt earlier now transformed into a whirlwind where profound revelations awaited just beyond reach. What awaited on this path of tangled connections? And could I balance the fragility of my heart, teetering between two lives? Each step resonated like a drum, counting down to the pivotal moment that awaited me. What could possibly be the outcome? The dim glow of the street lights flickered as I walked, each step heavy with the weight of not just my past, but of the volatile future looming ahead. The air was thick with uncertainty, wrapping around me like a fog I couldn't shake off. Michelle's voice echoed in my mind, its tremor clawing at layers of emotions I had thought were buried. I pressed on, my phone still warm in my palm, replaying her words like a cursed mantra. Something's happened. What did that even mean? The questions bubbled up as I made my way back to my car, urgency coursing through. A part of me dreaded what news awaited while another part clung to the misguided hope of reconciliation. I had tried to convince myself I was ready to face whatever fate Michelle was unraveling, but a dark foreboding loomed. Seating myself in the car, the reality of my situation washed over me with a ruthless clarity. Moments with Mia had opened little vistas of possibility, yet I couldn't shake the clubbed feeling of guilt that came with allowing myself to lean that way. I had stepped into the role of a father figure for a girl I barely knew while barely being present for my own daughter, whose world I was now uncertain of. I clenched the wheel and inhaled deeply, steeling myself as I dialed Michelle's number. It rang twice before her voice broke through, fraught with a mix of urgency and fear. "Sam, I'm glad you answered," she said, and I could hear a shuffling, the sound of paper crumpling. "What's going on?" I asked, my heart thudding in sync with the mounting anxiety clawing at my chest. "There's something we need to discuss, something about Hannah." The name pierced my heart. Hannah. I had barely spoken with her in weeks, swallowed by a burgeoning distance I couldn't name. "What about her?" I asked, dread pooling in my stomach. She's been struggling, Sam." "I didn't think it was this serious." Michelle's voice wavered, thick with unshed tears. "She's been talking to someone online, and I found some messages that deeply concern me. My thoughts ignited like powder keg. Messages? What kind of messages? Panic gripped me like a vice. There were too many unknowns swirling in the air right now. Hannah hadn't shared anything with me about online interactions, and as parents, we'd both prided ourselves on checking in with her, like vigilant lifeguards at a stormy sea. Michelle's next words were strained as if they were further distancing her from me. "She's been talking to someone named Ethan." The name pierced through the chaos buzzing in my head. My heart stumbled before I tightened my grip on the wheel, a surge of anger mixing with sorrow. "Ethan? The same one who's friends with Mia, that's what I'm afraid of." "There might be a connection between them," she continued, and I could almost hear the shadows flicking at the corners of her voice. "And you know how fragile things are with our daughter right now. Sam, we can't ignore this." A silence fell between us, heavy and leaden. Past echoed in those seconds as I recalled in Maya's eyes, the flicker of understanding that had passed between us. Did that connection hurt Hannah? Did she feel only doubt where I had found a semblance of hope? "And Maya's struggling too," I finally said, barely louder than a whisper. "I came to her because I thought maybe I could help her. Maybe she could show me how to be better." "Sam," Michelle's voice cracked, and in that moment, I could visualize her pressed against the cool counter in our kitchen, shaking against cracks of tension, warmth of shared memory seeping into an emptiness carved by regret. "You can't save them both. You have to choose." I felt the cold grip of reality tighten around my throat. "You're right." I struggled to breathe out the words, though the looming truth was suffocating. At what point would I truly have the courage to face this tangled web we've woven? As I pulled up to the small coffee shop where Michelle had suggested we meet, a new thought shot through the haze. What if Mia and Hannah were deeper entangled than I realized? Maybe they were both in pain, lost in darkness, searching for the light wherever they could find it. Just before I stepped out, my phone buzzed again, and I glanced down, instinctively hoping for a message of comfort. Instead, a new message lit the screen. It was from Mia. I hesitated, heart racing as I read the words. "I wanted to talk about Ethan. Can we meet?" My stomach lurched, a wild storm of guilt and a spark of hope crashing against one another. In that very moment, as my personal cauldron of emotional conflict began to boil over, I felt the ground beneath me shift. What did she need to say? And could I possibly navigate the treacherous waters ahead without capsizing everything I held dear? I swallowed hard, my heart racing with an unsettling realization. I was standing on a precipice, the gravity of my choices pulling me deeper into uncertainty, and at that moment, every step forward felt like a leap of faith into an abyss of forbidden possibility. The coffee shop hummed with warmth, a stark contrast to the tumult swirling inside me. I stepped inside, the aroma of roasted beans and freshly baked pastries embracing me like a fleeting moment of solace. In the corner booth, Michelle sat with her fingers wrapped tightly around a steaming cup that looked like it could shatter with the slightest tremor. Her eyes, usually vibrant, now mirrored the shadows lurking in the depths of her heart. As I approached, I could see the unspoken tension stretching between us, a web of worry threaded with hurt. When our eyes met, a silent exchange passed, a mixture of fear and the raw remnants of something once beautiful. "Thank you for coming," she said, forcing a smile that held little warmth. "Of course," I replied, sliding into the seat across from her. "We need to figure this out." Her gaze shifted downwards, examining the table as if the wood grain held the answers to questions either of us wanted to voice. "I'm scared, Sam. I don't know if we can fix this, if Hannah will even listen to us." That fear mirrored my own, the gnawing worry that descended like fog each time I thought of my daughter drifting further away. "She feels alone, like she has no one to talk to. We have to reach her before it's too late." My voice was steady, but internally, I was crumbling under the weight of it all. Michelle took a deep breath, her resolve sinking deeper into sadness. "But what if we're too late? She made a connection with someone who's not us. What if she doesn't believe we can help?" I swallowed the lump in my throat, memories of earlier laughter and lightness contrasting sharply with our current reality. "I need to speak to Mia about Ethan, about how he's tied into all of this." The words tumbled out before I could stop them, but a part of me understood the urgency of piecing together this unsettling puzzle. A slight nod from Michelle acknowledged my point. As the conversation flowed, our words began to fill the silent spaces, weaving through memories, regrets, and the precarious hopes of what might still come. We were setting a foundation, but beneath it all, cracks were starting to widen. "Promise me you'll talk to her about this Ethan guy," Michelle insisted, her eyes unwavering. "I don't want either of them getting hurt. We need to be the adults, the anchors they need." "I will," I assured her, but even as I spoke, I could feel the uncertainty clawing at my resolve. Just then, the bell above the door tinkled, interrupting me. My pulse quickened as I turned to see Mia entering the cafe, her expression a blend of nervousness and determination. She spotted me and headed straight for our table, her presence igniting an array of emotions within me. "Mia," I started, but her focus was entirely on Michelle. "Can we talk?" she asked, her voice a thread of vulnerability woven into steely resolve. Michelle and I exchanged a glance that spoke volumes before she gestured for Mia to sit. "We were just discussing you," she said, keeping her tone light despite the heaviness in the air. Mia bit her lip, her hands fidgeting in her lap. "I've been struggling. I think we all have." Her gaze flickered to me, and I sensed something heavy, an unspoken truth, perhaps. "I found out that you're talking to Ethan," I began, my voice quiet but firm. "Am worried about what that means for Hannah and for you." Tears glistened in her eyes as she shook her head. "I didn't want to hurt anyone. I think we're all just looking for someone who understands us." Her words hung in the air, echoing the same feelings I had experienced. "We're not mad at you, Mia. We're just afraid of losing you both." Michelle chimed in gently. "We want to support you. Can we help?" The tears finally spilled over as Mia broke down, her sobs resonating in the quaint cafe a world away from our burdens. "I tried to talk to Hannah about how I felt, how scared I am about everything, but she just pushed me away." My heart ached for her, and I reached across the table, squeezing her hand. "You're not alone, Mia. We're here, and Hannah needs us too. Can you help us reach her?" She nodded, her resolve returning like the flicker of a candle against a darkened room. "I know she trusts me more than anyone. I can talk to her." "Together then," I said, heat rushing through my veins as I contemplated the fragile connection we were weaving. "We can work together to help both of you." But as Mia wiped her tears, a familiar notification chimed on my phone. With dread pooling in my stomach, I glanced at the screen. It was another message from Hannah. My heart dropped as I opened the text, fear mingling with anger and urgency. I'm leaving. I can't do this anymore. I need to be free of you and everyone else. Stunned silence enveloped the table, a new wave of panic crashing over us. Suddenly, the earlier shadows felt like a tempest, and I knew this was the moment everything could shift. Would we be able to pull her back from the brink, or had we already lost her to the insufferable weight of feeling alone? Determined, I looked at Mia and Michelle, whose faces reflected the same dawning comprehension. There was no time to waste. We had to act now before Hannah's fragile thread slipped completely away. The din of the cafe faded to an uncertain background hum as I processed Hannah's message, each word a dagger that twisted inside me. The promise I'd made to reach out to her tightened like a noose around my chest. How could she feel so lost, so desperate to sever the connections that were meant to anchor her? Sam. Michelle's voice brought me back to the present, but the urgency in her tone cut through the fog of my thoughts. What do we do? I looked between her and Mia, weighing our options with every second that slipped away. We need to go to her. We need to stop this before it escalates. Can you two come with me? Mia nodded immediately, her earlier tears replaced by a fierce determination. I'll text her now. Maybe if I act casual, she won't see the alarm in my message. Do it, I urged, knowing time was not on our side. The swift tapping of Mia's fingers against her phone was the soundtrack of anxiety, a battle against an oncoming storm. Okay, I just sent it, she said, glancing up. We need to hurry. If she's really thinking of leaving, we can't lose this chance to talk her down. Michelle stood, her expression unreadable, as if she was grappling with her own fears. Let's go then, she said, her voice steady, but I could see the tremor in her hands. She needs us. We surged toward the door, the warmth of the cafe fading behind us like the last rays of sun before dusk. Outside, the crisp autumn air wrapped around us, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and fading light, a bitter reminder that change was relentless and often unwelcome. As we navigated the streets, Mia led the way, her phone battery flashing warnings but her spirit unyielding. We followed her, the urgency now driving our pace, my heart pounding with a mix of dread and hope. Mia stopped short as we neared the park where Hannah often frequented, her eyes scanning the area. This is where she comes to think, she murmured, a trace of worry threading her voice. If she's not here, I don't know where we'll find her. Let's just call out to her, I suggested, desperation creeping into my voice. Hannah! Can you hear us? Our calls echoed into the air, swallowed by the vastness of the green space around us. It felt absurd, yelling for her as if sheer volume could pull her from wherever she might be spiraling into. Just then, the wind rustled the branches above, altering the subdued mood with an unexpected gust. I turned, instinctively drawn to a movement in the distance, my heart leaping at the sight of someone at the edge of the park. Hannah, her silhouette a fragmented shadow against the fading daylight. Hannah! I yelled, the name escaping my lips like a prayer, a plea for her presence, her safety. She flinched and turned, an expression etched with fear and defiance painting her features more potently than I'd ever seen. What do you want? She shouted back, her voice strained, cracking as if every syllable was a tether threatening to snap. Mia stepped forward, her compassionate instincts emerging through her anxiety. We came to talk to you, to figure this out together. Please don't leave. Hannah, you don't have to face this alone. We're here, and we want to help, Michelle added, her own fear dissolving into a powerful sense of urgency. Moments lingered, heavy with unspoken words that hovered between us, the distance feeling both vast and insurmountable. I could see her ready to retreat, the struggle etched in her brow. You don't understand. I just want to be free. A flurry of emotions surged within me: fear, helplessness, the ache of knowing she felt more alone than I ever thought was possible. But at what cost, Hannah? You can't just leave us. I am tired of being told what to do, of being judged constantly. I need to find my own way. Her voice trembled slightly, cracking under the weight of her anger. A flicker of hope ignited as I saw perplexity creep into her eyes, fragments of doubt creeping through her frustration. Please, I implored. Let's talk about this. Do you really think running away will solve anything? For a moment, the tension held, a precarious balance like the leaves clinging to their branches against the permutations of wind. Her facade began to falter, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. But just as she hesitated, her phone buzzed in her pocket. The sound sucked the air from the moment. She pulled it out, glancing at the screen, and her face strained of color, a mixture of revelation and fear washing over her. No, it can't be, she whimpered, her hand shaking. What's wrong? I pressed, my sense of dread returning, heavier this time. Hannah's eyes widened as she raised the phone for us to see a text, illuminated against the encroaching twilight. It was a photo, one that revealed far more than words could say. It was Ethan, alongside a group of his friends, their laughter somehow distant yet close to the core of everything we had feared. It's not just me, she struggled to say, her voice a barely audible whisper, he's involved with someone else. The world tilted, leaving us all teetering on the edge of comprehension, and for the first time, I feared we were careening toward the devastating truth. The ground beneath us felt slippery, and the emotional cliff this moment teetered on promised a fall that could shatter everything we had fought for. The shadows elongated as the last remnants of light faded from the sky, casting an eerie pallor over the park. My heart raced in my chest, clashing against the cold, stark realization of Hannah's words. The photograph on her phone loomed larger than any words could encapsulate. It encapsulated more than betrayal. It carved a chasm that threatened to pull our fragile group of friends apart. Hannah's hands trembled, the phone slipping slightly from her grasp. I reached out to steady it, my own emotions swirling uncontrollably, a dreadful concoction of anger, pain, and fear for her well-being. Hannah, we're here for you. Don't let this push you to a place you can't come back from. She can't be, he wouldn't. Mia's words faltered, heavy under the weight of disbelief. You have to talk to him. This can't be all there is. Hannah's expression hardened, the vulnerability I just glimpsed concealed once more by a veil of defiance. You don't understand. It's not just about him. It's everything: school, my parents, my own insecurities. I'm drowning, and this is my only chance to breathe. She stepped back, the distance between us amplifying with every shaky word. The chilling chill of the evening seeped through my bones as I took a step forward, guided by the desperate need to pierce the barriers she had put up. Hannah, please don't shut us out. You're not alone in this fight. We'll stand by you, but you have to let us in. But what if I don't know how? She looked at me, raw and timeless, her gaze pleading. In that moment, the barrier wavered, slivers of anguish piercing through her defiance. We learned together, Michelle interjected softly, her tone steady like the autumn leaves settling despite the wind. We learn how to fight, how to stand tall. We can't let fear control our choices, Hannah. You are stronger than you think. The wind picked up, brushing past us with a tenderness that was at odds with the emotions crackling in the air. For a brief moment, Hannah's mask began to crack further, her desolation palpable. But what if I fail? What if I can't find my way back? Then we'll find a way together. It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be real, I said, my voice barely more than a murmur. Just then, a flicker of movement caught my eye, a figure emerging from the trees bordering the park. My heart sank, the silhouette drew closer. It was Ethan. His confidence radiated like an unwelcome beacon, the remnants of laughter still echoing between us. Hannah! He called, his voice deceptively light. But as he approached, I could see the uncertainty etched on his face. What was he doing here now? That smugness I had once loathed slowly transformed into a mixture of apprehension and something else, something like regret. Hannah, can we talk? He asked, halting a few feet away. He glanced at us, his gaze skimming over Mia and Michelle before resting on her. Please, I didn't mean for this to happen, she recoiled slightly, an almost instinctive action. What are you talking about? This isn't some game to me. The tremor in her voice reverberated, and I could feel the tremors of her heart delivered through the atmosphere. But we can work through this, he urged, stepping forward as if to close the distance. You don't have to run. I made a mistake, and stay back. Hannah's voice rose, resonating with the surge of anger and sorrow. You don't get to dictate this. You broke me, and am done. Ethan's face fell, as if he had been struck by her words, yet beneath it lay a glimmer of desperation. Please let me explain. I can fix this, we just need to talk. The air hung thick with tension, the world around us narrowing into a snapshot of indecision. Hannah's eyes brimmed with tears, and I could see the battle raging within her, fear of vulnerability, anger at betrayal, longing for resolution. Hannah, don't let him back in, I pleaded softly. This is your moment. You have the power to choose what happens next. But just as these words slipped from my lips, a shout came from the pathway leading into the park, breaking the moment into fragments. Hannah! Where are you? My heart jolted. It was her mother's voice, strained with panic. No, I breathed, watching as dread enveloped Hannah. She was caught in a storm, pulled between an ex-lover and maternal ties that felt far too confining. The heaviness in the air crackled as the edges of our tightly woven friendship frayed, unraveling at the seams. Hannah turned toward the sound, her eyes wide and agitated, another wave of turmoil crashing over her. Mom, she whispered, her voice barely escaping her throat, frantic realization dawning on her. The mounting pressure of unanswered questions and unresolved pain wrapped around her like a vice. No, no! She cried, turning back to Ethan, who stood standing, a ghost of the person I once wanted to hate. This isn't just about us anymore. And then, as we all stood paralyzed by fear and uncertainty, another realization hit. This encounter had roots deeper than we could have ever imagined, threads pulling dangerously from every corner of our lives, intertwining us all in a manner I never anticipated. Each heartbeat echoed my dread as complicated feelings danced like shadows, presaging an emotional storm that was only just beginning to unfold. With her mother calling closer, the weight of choices loomed heavier than ever. The fissures that formed today would shake every facet of our intertwined lives, laying bare the truths we weren't ready to face. The air thickened as Hannah's breath quickened, her gaze flickering between Ethan and the path where her mother was emerging. It felt as though time had shattered into countless moments, each one heavy with the unsaid words, the bleeding wounds festering beneath our skin. Hannah! Her mother's voice crescendoed, now only a few yards away, marooned in the thickening shadows. The urgent love and worry embedded in her tone drew a visceral response from Hannah, as though the weight of her mother's concern was an anchor, pulling her back to the shore of reality. But the waves of her defiance still rippled around us like an unsolved riddle. I can't deal with this, Hannah uttered, her voice cracking, caught in a whirlpool of emotions. Mom can't know. Panic punctuated her words, her shoulders tightening as if to stave off the impending embrace of responsibility. What if she already does? I saw the realization wash over Ethan's face, a flicker of helpless understanding mingling with dread. It stilled the fight that had begun to bloom between them. My heart ached for both of them. The confusion bore down on us all, pressing harder with each second until I felt like I could hardly breathe. Then, from the periphery, Michelle whispered a gentle reminder, Hannah, you're strong. You don't have to hide. You can choose the way this unfolds. It was a lifeline, the words puncturing the chaos. Others might miss the shadows of hope threaded within those utterances, but I felt its warmth drawing Hannah closer to it, a fragile luminescence amidst the darkening storm. Just as her mother rounded the corner of the park, her figure stark against the low-hanging twilight, I saw a tiny tremble in Hannah's lip, the glisten of resolve fighting back tears. This was her moment, as fleeting as it felt, hanging on the precipice of uncertainty. Hannah! Her mother's frantic calls turned nearer, the sound wrapping like ivy around her heart. We're worried. Come find me. Please, just give me a moment, she pleaded, her voice catching, vulnerability spilling over the rim of her carefully constructed defenses. She turned to Ethan for a moment, as if searching in his eyes for a solution, a lifeline that would free her from the chaos swarming her. The storm within Hannah threatened to consume her, and with each passing moment, I felt her slipping through the cracks of judgment and brokenness. Why did you even come? She finally asked, her voice a whisper, filled with so much pain it made the air thrum. I wanted to fix this, Ethan replied, desperation saturating his words, eyes wide as he searched her gaze for forgiveness or understanding. I'm sorry, Hannah. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I thought we had something real. But with each word of his, a deeper chasm seemed to form, a flickering doubt which branched into myriad untold stories of betrayal and fear. And what about us? Hannah stepped forward, the steely edge returning for a moment. What about everything you had when you walked away? I made a mistake, he yelled suddenly, his words echoing in the hush of the park, bursting forth like the crack of thunder that follows lightning. I'm here now. We can talk this out. But the bomb of his promise seemed to fall flat. Every offering was laced with hesitation, the shadow of his earlier deceit looming large. Hannah! Her mother's voice shattered through again, now just a few steps away, the weight of her love crashing down like vestiges of a storm eager to break. Just go. Hannah's voice trembled, the words squeezing out of her like the last breath of a dying flame. I can't do this anymore. I can't do any of this. And then, she turned to face the incoming storm of her mother, her posture collapsing under the weight of expectations and broken dreams. Before I could step forward, to reject any notion of blame on her shoulders, a flurry of movement erupted. Mia rushed beside Hannah, offering a hand as if to physically anchor her in this tumultuous sea of uncertainty. Together, remember? Mia whispered, her voice breaking through the chaos like the first light after a long, dark night. Whatever this is, we'll face it together. And in that moment, I clung to that flicker of hope like Boyd would in a tumultuous tide. But just as it appeared Hannah might embrace that togetherness, a thought crossed my mind, a small consideration, barely grazing the surface of my consciousness, but one that sent an even darker ripple across the night. Wait! Ethan suddenly gasped, turning to look past Hannah, his expression shifting to something far more telling. There's something you should know. Before I could process what he meant, it came rushing back, a hurried message I'd seen on social media just that morning. A thread that hinted at deeper entanglements, connections that twisted and spiraled through our lives like ivy climbing up an old stone wall, all of it connecting us tightly, and none of us might have known just how tightly because we tread so lightly through each other's lives. As Hannah peered at Ethan, frowning in confusion, I could feel the enormity of the moment closing in on us, threatening to pull us all beneath the crashing waves of secrets, lies, and maybe, just maybe, a flicker of truth that could either bind us closer together or tear us apart forever. It hung there, heavy and unwieldy as the haunting cries from her mother grew nearer, and the silence draped around us, thicker than fog, just as the weight of that truth begged to be unraveled, just as Hannah's future hung like a delicate whisper. The darkness within that tangled web pushed its way between us, an emotional distance that felt insurmountable. I realized then with stark clarity I had to know. Hannah, I said, heart racing, what did he mean? What truth is he hiding? And in a split second, I could see the horizon of a new storm brewing, one that would change everything. The night hung still, pregnant with anticipation, as Hannah turned towards Ethan, her eyes wide, almost challengingly. What do you mean, Ethan? What truth? Her voice trembled, a fragile cord that threatened to snap under the pressure of the moment. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, the weight of our collective gazes pressing in on him. It's not just about you, Hannah. It's about all of you, Sis and Mia. I thought maybe you knew, but his voice trailed off, and he swallowed hard. I didn't want to hurt you. A chill swept through the air, the gravity of his words altering the course of our standoff, hanging thick with unspoken implications. Hannah remained rooted, a flicker of confusion blended with dread flickering across her features. Hurt me with what? Mia, still gripping Hannah's hand, edged closer to her friend. What's going on, Ethan? Just say it. The shadows that danced among the trees aligned in perfect harmony with the questions swirling among us. I could feel my heart hammering in my chest, the fear of the unknown gnawing at my senses, urging me to protect them both. The truth is, he hesitated, his face searching for the right words, his eyes darting toward distance as if looking for the assurance to carry on. I saw Hannah and Mia on campus talking one day. I didn't know they were friends already. I thought it was just a random encounter, but when I found out Mia was struggling, I thought I could do something. Emma's brow furrowed, trying to seize back control of a moment that felt uncontrollable. What does any of this have to do with you? She asked, her voice steady but fierce. Ethan swallowed again, his face tightening with tension. I met someone else, someone who said Hannah's family and Emma's family. I interjected suddenly, urgency prickling my skin as realization ignited. The pieces of all this started to click together, entwining like vines. The one who's been reaching out to your parents, Hannah. Someone with the power to change everything. I didn't want to scare you, Ethan said hurriedly, his words colliding against the air, the rush unraveling like badly made yarn between us. I didn't think it would escalate like this. In that moment, everything fell silent, as if the universe were holding its breath. I watched Hannah's expression shift from confusion to horror, her thoughts racing to comprehend the enormity of what lay before her. You mean to tell me that someone's been manipulating this entire situation? That because I brought Mia into this, it's intertwined our lives in ways I didn't even realize? Yes, Ethan exclaimed, growing more desperate. But you have to understand, I didn't know who to trust. I had no idea it would lead to this bigger mess. Hannah's breaths quickened, her eyes glistening with fear and heartbreak. No, Ethan. You don't get to walk away. Tell me what this means for us. For me. For Mia. Ethan stepped back, the weight of her words igniting determination within him. Hannah, you need to listen to me. The messages I received were not just from my new girlfriend. They involved your family's struggles, the debts, the things we couldn't control, and suddenly, our paths tangled like a frayed tapestry, and there we were, caught in the middle of it. The tension erupted into something almost tangible, the emotions swirling and crashing as waves against the cliffside. No! Hannah's voice cracked, and despair unleashed itself from within. None of this is fair. I've already lost so much. Mia squeezed her friend's hand tighter. Well, fight back. But you need to let us in. Together, we can face whoever is trying to pull the strings. I watched as the kaleidoscope of emotions washed over Hannah's features: fear, anger, connection, and an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. She looked at Ethan with newfound clarity and uncertainty. Do you even care about what happens to me? Yes, Hannah, he implored, stepping forward again, but only to meet the recoiling distance that separated them. That's why I tried to warn you. I'm sorry it took too long. I thought you were safe. I never wanted anyone to hurt you or even think of running away. The sound of footsteps charging down the path shattered the intensity of the moment. Hannah! Are you here? Her mother's voice burst with urgency, breaking the throbbing tension and coaxing Hannah back into confrontation with what had been her reality. We're going to talk about this. Stop hiding. Mia, we have to go, I urged, sensing the storm brewing against the horizon. They were close, and Hannah was colliding with layers of her own intricacies that threatened to suffocate her. A flicker of hesitation engulfed Hannah as she glanced back towards her mother's voice, a look of defeat settling across her features. What if I don't know how to fix this? She whispered, the fragility in her tone resonating in the air between us. You do. You just need to take that step, I encouraged, taking a step toward her, echoing the sincerity of hope. We will take that step with you. In that moment, when Hannah turned to see the love in our eyes, something flickered in her in acknowledgement, a connection of heart that tethered us together within this bewildering chaos. She stood between her past entangled with Ethan, and the future cloaked in uncertainty that awaited, guided by the warmth of friendship, no longer bound by fear. I don't want to hide anymore, she admitted. The words rang out, bold and defiant, the first steps toward a decision that could lift the weight off her heart. The sound of her mother's voice drew closer, an anchor against the backdrop of her internal struggle. Heartbeats quickened around us, a collective rhythm driven by the understanding that so much hung in the balance. But right there in that park, under the pale glow of the fading sun, stood a reckoning. Ethan shifted nervously closer again. I'm here. I want to help. Just please, give me the chance to make this right. Hannah's eyes searched his, 1,000 unspoken words flickering between them, but for the first time, her resolve hardened. You will help by standing back. I'm choosing not because I want anyone to save me but because I want to truly live. And you can be a part of that, but not by bringing shadows to my light. As her mother's voice finally reached where we stood, I felt the swell of hope surge through me. Hannah took a deep breath, embracing the warmth of those standing beside her. I'm not running away anymore. With that, a bond of truth woven from our hearts began to solidify. In a world rife with tangled lies and hardships, we stood together, ready to face what was ahead, undaunted by uncertainties, united in spirit. As footsteps approached with their synchronicity, I uttered the only words that felt right together. Together, we would carve our own path through the shadows and seek the light, no longer tethered to the fears that once threatened to engulf us. The hope that coursed through each of us felt like the smallest stars fighting against the overwhelming night, a reminder that even amid chaos, there's strength in connection. And in that moment, standing on the verge of something powerful yet undefined, I gazed into Hannah's eyes, filled with sincerity and purpose, whispering the truth that had emerged within me all along, the truth that bound all of us. We can heal from this. And as those words reverberated through the night, the fading stars above blinked back in agreement, illuminating a path that dared us to step forward into the unknown, hand in hand, ready to embrace the lives we would create anew.